Welcome to Ghostly.
Is the Napoleon House in New Orleans haunted?
Prepare to shiver. Ghostly is your bi-weekly dose of the paranormal. We unearth chilling ghost stories and examine the evidence with a critical eye. Rebecca hunts down the legends while I, your friendly neighborhood skeptic, poke holes in her theories. In the end, you, the listener, get to decide, is it a genuine haunting or just purely made up? Click the subscribe button or follow button to always be in the loop of the new tall tales. And as always, we're your host. I'm Pat.
And I'm Rebecca.
And so we are recently returning from New Orleans.
Yes, Nolans.
Nolans, yes. And we did happen upon the Napoleon House while we were there.
We did.
And I believe you took some pictures, right?
Yes, I did. So we'll definitely share some of those on.
Did we do a Facebook Live there?
We did do a Facebook Live from there. Yep.
So
all that's on the socials. So.
Yeah. So if you're not on the Facebook, go ahead and figure it out.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a reel too, so it's on the gram, right?
Yes, it's I think it may have been a post too. I don't know. We put it out there.
Should we just start calling it like graham crackers? I don't know what it's called. Like a reel on Instagram. We got to come up with some catchy phrase for this thing.
You go.
But anyways, yeah. So what was your thoughts about New Orleans as somebody that hasn't been there as an adult before?
Yeah, I had only ever been there as a kid, so it was very, very different.
You think?
Yeah. I don't even think we went to like Bourbon Street or whatever when I was a kid. I think I just remember going to like the market and getting a beignet and the whatever. But it was so much fun.
But this time you got a beignet at the right place, right?
I did. We went to Cafe Beignet
on Royal Street.
Street.
That's the best location. It has a little courtyard, and it's right by the police station where they sell T-shirts.
They do sell T-shirts, yeah. I realize I'm talking
about the police station selling T-shirts, not Cafe Beignet. They probably sell them too.
I bought a pair of socks there.
Oh, did you?
Which was kind of cool.
Beignet socks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, anyway, it was a lot of fun, and we've got so much to talk about.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, is there anything you want to mention about?
Yeah, I just want to say one thing, because I have been down there probably a dozen times now. And I will say that I don't think I've ever been there in February.
Okay.
So I was not aware that Mardi Gras doesn't just start on Fat Tuesday.
No.
It starts like after the New Year's.
Pretty much. That's what
they say. And
say.
they have parades all the time.
All the time.
And we were we were detained by a few parades, I will say that.
That was really funny. The first night it was like, what are all those people doing standing there?
In goofy costumes and stuff. They look like Marie Antoinette.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. That was pretty fun. Yeah. So yes, the festivities. Yes. There you go. We're already on the way of started. I don't know. Yes.
On the way of started? Are you having a stroke right now, Rebecca? I just need to ask this.
I'm okay, I promise.
Okay.
It was just I saw some crazy things.
The hurricanes are still catching up on you or something? So, and another thing I would say is I don't remember it ever being as loud as it was on Bourbon Street. And I don't remember as many people eating smoked sandwiches. I think that's how we referred to that previously.
Yes.
All around, everywhere you go.
A lot of sandwiches.
Yeah.
Yep.
A lot of sandwiches. Yeah.
And I mean, though I could tell that while it was busy, it could definitely be a lot busier, and I'm sure it will be.
I was there on Halloween.
Closer.
I was there on Halloween once, and it was like 4 times what we saw, but still, this was like annoyingly busy. Like for those people like me that don't like to people that much. I love to be around people, but I don't like to people that much at one time. I need it in doses.
Right.
That's my thing.
So you gotta be a little careful.
Anyway, so that's our little shout out. Did you observe anything when looking at the Napoleon House that struck out to you or anything?
Just that it definitely has an older air to it. I mean, which obviously a lot of New Orleans does, but there are a few buildings that definitely ring a bit older than some others.
Yeah.
And that one definitely did.
Yeah. So the one tour guide that we went on a history tour and talking about the prices of things in New Orleans French Quarter, which, are, I don't want to say reasonable, because to some people it would not be reasonable, especially for the square footage you're getting. But I would definitely say that it's not as pricey as you probably think right off the top of your head to live in the French Quarter. But they said that you cannot make any changes without getting it approved, because it's all part of a historic district.
Right. So, yeah, they definitely limit what you can do. Yeah. And so that does help preserve that old space. Yeah. And I think that we find a lot of times when we are talking about ghosty places that they've changed, they renovated, they redid everything, and that doesn't happen so much.
The Napoleon House not only has not changed, it actually purposely has not changed.
Exactly.
Since at least 1914. Mm-hmm. And we're gonna talk about
We're going to talk about it. Well, and I think we are hoping to do a bonus episode.
Yes.
Where we dive a little deeper into some of the ghost stories and things that we heard.
Because we did hear some.
We definitely talked to people, and they were happy to share their stories with us. It was a lot of fun.
One about one of the stars of Karate of the next Karate Kid. I'm not going to say who it is. You liked
that one the most just because of the Karate Kid. Yeah. To me, I like the ghosty one.
That story might have to be a Patreon only, because it involves words that I probably wouldn't say on this.
Well, we'll see. Maybe we can find a way to tell it.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the part where we would do a shout out on Ghostly. And the first way is to give us a review on Apple Podcasts. We always prefer those 5-star reviews, but we will read any and all reviews that we receive, as you will hear today.
Yes.
The second way is to become a member on Patreon. Just go to ghostlypodcast.com and click on Patreon in the menu bar. Or if you're already on Patreon, I think you could just do a search for Ghostly Podcast.
Yeah.
I have not attempted that, so don't hold me to that, but I believe you can. We have a lot of different tiers to choose from. And if there's ever anything that you think a Patreon of Ghostly should have that it doesn't have, please let us know, because we would gladly add that to
we have tier. Early, we have ad free, so and
we have like a back catalog of Ghostly X episodes, which are a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. They're not just explicit, they are actually informative, and just as informative as this podcast. In fact, I think we take a deeper dive into some people.
I was just going to say, a lot of the guests that we regularly have on Ghostly have done Ghostly X interviews, where you really get to hear about them and their beliefs or non-beliefs. It's a lot of fun. It is
a lot of fun. You get to learn about these people a little more. Okay, so we have been slacking, Rebecca.
I know.
So here's this problem. We used to have this service that we subscribed to, and it was free. But the service would tell us if there was any new reviews, and also if we were charted in any of the top categories and stuff. Which, by the way, we just got listed on FeedSpot as one of the top 60 paranormal podcast. We are sitting at 30, which actually I think is really good for that particular. For looking at the podcast above us, I'm like, wow, I feel like that is pretty prestigious.
30 is pretty respectable for sure.
But this is the one that I like the most, is for ghost stories. We are rated 13th in the world.
Yes,
for that. So that's pretty darn good. So go to FeedSpot, check it out. We'll post some links.
Yeah, we got to post some links to that so you guys can see us and see all of our fellow people on the feeds. But we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah. So we do have 2 reviews that we have let slide because that service is no longer available.
And we didn't realize.
Well, we did realize it. I just didn't think of the impact that we would have to go in and check, because there's no way that we get a notification when we get a review.
No, and so we should be checking, but we didn't. Yeah,
we didn't.
We were just so used to.
So I will read the first one if you read the second one.
I will.
Okay, so this one is from Tatted Bear. It is a 5-star review. It came out September 11th, 2024, so we're a little late.
So sorry.
And it's called Poo Poo Platter. I don't know why. Poo Poo Platter. I have been listening since the beginning and love all the rhetoric between the two. Rebecca gives great evidence, but Sister Patty, I'm assuming that's me, ain't having it. I don't think the Holy Ghost himself could make Patty believe in the afterlife. I could. If the Holy Ghost came down, I might.
I don't know. I have my doubts.
Sometimes you just got to enjoy the story. Side note, bring back Mondo.
Ooh, all right.
Of course we're going to bring back Mondo.
Yeah,
we just got to find the right episode for Mondo. He has been doing his own adventure over on YouTube. And maybe you can post a link to that in the show notes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Mondo does this 360 tour of things. So like he'll go to San Antonio, and he will do a 360 bike tour or a walking tour of those particular areas, which is amazing.
It's so much fun.
And if you like do it on your phone, you could actually turn your phone and you could just like, as you're listening to it, you could just rotate the phone and you see different parts of it. It's like so weird. It's so weird. Yeah, definitely like you're there. Also, talking to Mondo, I hate to call him out on this, but he did tell me that he's thinking about doing things like, hey, I'm changing a battery in this car. This is how you do it.
Oh.
So like a how-to thing.
He would be great at that.
He would be really great at that. I look forward to all of those videos. Thank you, Mondo, for all that you do. And man, we gotta get back at it here.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I'll read our next one, which is from Sishami.
Okay.
This was from October.
Yeah.
October 28th, 2024. 5 skulls.
5 skulls.
I love it. It's 5 stars, 5 skulls. I wish we could have skulls as our rating system.
I know. Awesome. That would be so cool. Or cool. Ghost, I would like that too.
Ghostly is my only podcast subscription.
What?
Thank you.
Oh,
wow.
That's awesome.
The history, stories, and debate make the listening enjoyable, but the Facebook group, Patreon, and voting adds a personal investment and participation to make it fun.
I definitely agree with that. That is one of the things when I decided that, I wanted to do this podcast, I wouldn't have it any other way but to have it engaging and interactive.
Absolutely.
So I wanted to put that element where you, the listener, are involved in the discussion.
Absolutely. And I would say all of these plus the Discord.
Yes, Discord, yes.
Are all great places to really feel like you're participating.
Also, book club.
Book club is really fun.
Currently, right now, it is free to anyone to join book club. And we might add that to Patreon at some time in the future, just for like a little heads up. But if you subscribe to that book club right now, like right now, and you attend at least one of the book clubs.
Yes.
So the next one will be totally free. Yeah. And if you attend one, you're in them all. We will never take that away from you. But in the future, if you've never been to a book club, it might be a Patreon thing.
It might be. And our next one is going to be April 3rd.
Yes.
So still plenty of time.
Oh, yeah.
To join. And if you want to get a little peek at what the book is, you don't even have to sign up. You can just go see that on our website.
Yeah.
If you go to ghostlypodcast.com and search book club, you'll see it. And then you can decide, hey, is this something I want to do?
Our last book was Head Full of Ghosts.
Yes.
It was so good.
It was. I liked it.
So here's the thing about my reading that I'm finding. I am not as much a skeptic when I am reading these stories.
That is true.
Because I want them to be ghosts and stuff. And this one was a classic, I would say.
Yeah, it was really great. Yeah. If you liked any of our exorcism episodes.
Yeah, this was definitely...
That book was a really good one.
This played up on every single exorcism episode that we have touched upon. It talked about in some way, shape, or form.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this next one is, I don't know, it just looks creepy. I haven't read it yet, but it looks creepy.
Yeah, you like to wait till the last minute.
I do, because I'll forget otherwise.
Yeah, I usually will try to do it beforehand because I have been rushed before where it's like the last day, and we make sure that they're on Audible too.
Absolutely. I was going to say, we make sure they're on Audible. Yeah. They're on, you can get it on your Kindle.
Yeah.
You can get it
Apple Books.
Yeah. You can get the paperback.
Yeah. So we make sure that those are some of the criteria, and also too, we ask book club members for their suggestions for the next book. But anyways, so there's been times I have had like 4 hours to go and like 5 hours to the book club, and had to cram that in and listen to it at high speeds. So I usually will do it in advance now.
Gotcha. So, anyways, but plenty of time. So,
sorry to ramble today.
That's all right. No, it's good stuff.
Yeah.
And we want more people to join. Get in there before we switch it over.
I want to thank Sishami and Tatted Bear. Thank you so much for giving us these reviews. These reviews help us by allowing other people to discover us.
Absolutely.
It puts us higher in the algorithm, but also, too, when somebody looks at Ghostly Podcast, they see, oh, wait, they have a rating of this amount, and also that they have this amount of reviews.
Yep.
Those are two things that you look for in a podcast that you're going to listen to.
Absolutely. All right. So one more thing would be listener mail. We don't have any listener mail today, but we want to hear your stories. We're always excited to hear stories from others. So you can email us your stories at info@ghostlypodcast.com. You can use the contact us form on ghostlypodcast.com. And you can also send us an actual physical mail if you want.
Also, too, for a limited time, I would like to add that you could give us little critiques, too, about like how awful I am and how I will never change.
That's not a limited time thing. People can always send us critiques.
But you can send us.
Always want to learn.
But the limited time is that we will read it on the air. I'm going to open that up for that.
I see. Even not just in the reviews, but just like general.
So all of you people that don't have Apple Podcasts, send us an email. Because we need listener mail.
That's true. Listener mail can be about anything.
Yeah.
Ghostly
related.
Ghostly related, but I mean,
I'm not going to read
have
about
to be a story.
We're not going to read a story about you installing your kitchen sink.
True.
Unless it's haunted.
There it is. Exactly. And if you want to send us mail, where can they send it?
Yeah, one of our favorite ways is to get ghost stories in the actual physical mail. Like, remember olden days when you would like check your mailbox and stuff? And I'm not talking about inbox. I'm talking about your mailbox. You can send it to P.O. Box number 264, Geneva, Illinois, 60134.
Yep. And you probably won't remember all of that.
No,
so just
I don't even remember it.
Go to ghostlypodcast.com.
I just said it and I don't remember it. Yeah. So ghostlypodcast.com, scroll all the way to the bottom. It's there.
Absolutely. And you can send us DMs on socials as well.
Yeah, within reason, I'd say. You know, I don't need any more pictures of your ghosts and stuff like that. No, I'm just kidding. Right. I do need all of them. So please,
all right,
keep it PG or
hey, we're a PG-13 podcast.
Yeah, so PG-13 is fine.
Keep it there.
Maybe what is that? NC-17 or something like that?
No NC-17.
I will look at those mails, but I will not necessarily respond to them on the show. So, okay, anyways.
All right, let's talk about polls, everyone's favorite topic.
Why do we got to ruin this with that?
You always get that way, and then you always end up winning.
I don't always win. You win. You have won more than I have.
Well, in our last episode, we talked about the Busby stoop chair.
Yeah, that was... I'm sorry. There's not many times that I'm like, this is a ridiculous story. But I mean, at least we learned what a stoop was, you know, and getting stooped and getting, what is it, gilded?
Yeah.
Yeah, we learned about those things. And that was interesting to me.
It was.
So I take some value from that.
All right. Well, we had yes as 28% and no is 72%.
Wow.
So definitely it's not cursed is what the audience mostly said.
Yeah. And it reflects in the overall rating, which you can give your rating same as we do, except you can't do 0 like I do. So it's 1 to 10. 1 being not haunted at all, 10 being the most haunted place ever. Not just because you love Rebecca that you give a 10. You just have to rate this particular thing. You could vote yes for Rebecca and then give it a 1 still. You know, that's fine. If you're like, I love Rebecca, but no, this story is not at all. So I'm going to say yes, but we're going to go no. Anyways, 2.8 on this scale.
Gotcha.
It's reflected. Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into our topic a little bit more today.
All right.
Right? I mean, you know, we've mentioned a little bit, but we're getting back to the ghosts.
Yes, we are. Yes.
You know, as opposed to the curse, which was fun. It was fun to do some curse stuff,
and we'll do more.
Sure, we'll definitely do more.
We need a little break from the curses.
Yeah, we're heading into ghosty time. Yeah. All right. So let's listen to a ghost story.
All right.
It's time for a spooky tale from Rebecca.
I had always loved New Orleans. The way history clung to its streets, the way every building seems to have a secret. When I rented an apartment on the 3rd floor of the Napoleon House, I was warned about its haunted reputation. I laughed it off. Ghost stories were just that, stories. My first night alone in the apartment, I felt it. The air was heavy, thick with something unseen. As I unpacked, the chandelier flickered. Faulty wiring, I told myself. But then, the flickering took on a rhythm. 1, 2, 3. My breath caught in my throat. The next night, my sister Mary visited. We stayed up late, sipping wine and swapping stories about our day. She brought up the haunting rumors, scoffing at the idea of ghosts. As if on cue, the kitchen light blinked. Once, twice, a pause, then again. We stared at each other, the silence between us stretching tight. "If there's someone here," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, "blink the lights 3 times." The room went dark. Then, 1, 2, 3 flashes of light answered. My stomach twisted. Mary, always the skeptic, sat frozen, gripping her glass. A week later, I was alone again. I had almost convinced myself the lights were a fluke when something even spookier happened. As I drifted off to sleep, a force hit my back, hard. I gasped, twisting around, my pulse hammering, but there was no one there. No one in the room, no one in the apartment. The air was colder now. The faint scent of something, perhaps pipe smoke, perhaps old wood, lingered. I sat up, my back pressed against the headboard, waiting. Nothing more happened that night, but I barely slept. Days later, I met an old bartender downstairs. When I mentioned my experiences, he only chuckled. "You're lucky," he said. "Some of the spirits here just sweep floors or drink at a bar. Yours actually wanted to say hello." I laughed, but it wasn't really that funny. I don't think they want to hurt me, but I'm not sure I want to be their witness either.
All right, Rebecca. So how much of that is based on facts?
So actually a lot of it. So we're going to hear about the sisters and the flickering lights. That is something that is a real story.
All right. Well, we're going to take a short break, and when we return, we're going to get to the history.
Facts. From a skeptic point of view. Facts. He presents it all to you. Facts.
All right. So we're going to get to the pet facts.
Pet facts.
To do this properly, we need to go over some major events and defining characteristics of New Orleans in the 1790s.
Yeah, I'm excited to hear about this because our history tour guide told us some things, but there was a lot.
Yeah.
So and there was a lot that was surprising to me.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to learn.
So New Orleans was once upon a time under French control, right?
Yes.
But the French didn't really want it that much. They just didn't want anyone else to have it.
Interesting.
Because it was a good port into the rest of the, what would be a country eventually.
Right.
So they wanted that, but they were really weird about it. They eventually sold it to the Spanish because they figured at some point they would be able to regain it from them, maybe through warfare. But
interesting.
New Orleans was under Spanish rule during the 1790s.
That's, again, wouldn't have known that.
No.
Yeah.
But retained a strong French influence in language, architecture, and culture. You will see some Spanish influence in there as
Absolutely,
well. Yeah. So the city was a bustling port with the Mississippi River facilitating trade with Europe, the Caribbean, and other regions. This led to an economic growth, but also increased the inequality that was going on there.
Oh, okay.
New Orleans had a rigid social hierarchy, with wealthy planters and merchants at the top, enslaved Africans at the bottom, and artisans, shopkeepers, and laborers somewhere in between. So just because you owned a shop didn't mean much to them.
Right.
You were just like middle class.
Yeah.
No matter how good you did in there. New Orleans had a, despite social divisions, New Orleans was still a vibrant mix of cultures, evident in its music, fashion, and cuisine. So you'll hear a lot of stories, if you do research of this, that, they're one of the first places that gave women the right to own property.
Right.
They also, were not as cruel to their slaves in the French Quarter area than some of the other places were, except for the place that murdered all of them, But
well, yeah, I mean, they would go to church together and different things. So.
In fact, black and white were buried next to each other in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1.
Yeah.
So it's something to, just keep in mind. 1797 also marked the start of large-scale sugar production, which would have been a major impact on the economy and increased the demand for enslaved labor, though. The city was experiencing population growth and economic expansion, but also facing challenges like overcrowding and social tensions. Remember, at this time, New Orleans was the French Quarter. That was it.
Oh, okay.
It was starting to, grow out a little bit more, but it was primarily the French Quarter at this particular moment. The city was, the Place des Mars, right? Did I say that right?
Sure.
Is the Jackson Square that we know of today. It was the heart of the city, home to the government buildings, shops, and the cathedral. We were there several times.
Yes.
What was your thoughts of that?
Well, what was crazy is our tour guide was telling us how much inspiration Disney took from the French Quarter. And I had made a joke to myself earlier in the day, like, this is like Disney for adults. But when you take a picture of the cathedral, it looks like Cinderella's castle.
Yeah, which you sent to your brother, right?
I did. And he came back with that. And I hadn't even said that to him. I just sent him the picture. So that was really crazy.
So New Orleans was a city of contrast, though, right? So it had these grand houses alongside humble dwellings, and wealth and poverty existing side by side,
and all going to church.
Yeah, very very strange. And actually, they made all the slaves. They baptized all the slaves, which was very unique for any place.
Yes,
because that was identifying them as human beings. So it made it difficult then. In 1797, though, New Orleans was at a crossroads, poised for growth and change, but facing an uncertain future with challenges like slavery and social inequality. All right, so let's explore the captivating story of the Napoleon House in New Orleans then. So around 1797, Nicholas Garrard, who would later become mayor, built this grand house for himself. This is the very beginning of what we now know as the Napoleon House. Garrard was a popular mayor, and his home became an important place in the city. The house got a makeover in 1814. It was expanded and renovated and started to look like it does today. In 1821, Napoleon Bonaparte died far away on an island. There had been talk of rescuing him and bringing him to New Orleans, but that dream died with him. Even though Napoleon never set foot in the house, it became known as the Napoleon House.
Yeah, I think I read a little bit about that too, where, I mean, we're not going to get into Napoleon, but obviously we did talk about the island, right? Because that island is haunted. Yes. And so if you can go back and listen to that, but they wanted to like entice him because there was enough French people in the city that they were like, oh, maybe he can have his exile over here, and then that'll help make us money.
But
or
he
whatever.
would have taken over all of what we now know as the
I have
United
no
States.
idea if he even ever knew about it or whatever it was, but he didn't live, and
it sounded like he did know of it. Well, he knew of New Orleans very, very well, actually. He made plans for it a lot. And in fact, a a lot of New Orleans, like the French Quarter especially, is under Napoleon civil code.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Instead of, what everybody else does in the United States.
Yeah.
So it's, it's very, very interesting. So the house between 1820 and 1914, so like 100 years almost, the house had many different lives, okay? It was a home, it was a grocery store, even a salon.
Oh.
Imagine the stories that those walls could tell if they could talk to us right now, which they can't because there's no ghost. Anyways, in 1914, this is a major milestone for this particular building. It was a big change. The Impostito family bought the building and turned it into a restaurant and bar. They named it the Napoleon House. So that was what gave it the actual official name, although it was called that before. The Napoleon House became the place to go in the 1920s. Locals and tourists loved it. Great food, a fun atmosphere, and a beautiful courtyard made it a hit. In 1970, the Napoleon House... Oh, and by the way, so Uncle Joe was the owner of the place.
Okay.
Uncle Joe Impasto, or Jay Impasto. They called him Uncle Joe. And he thought that the place needed some more ambiance.
Okay.
So what he did was he took his Victrola and he brought it downstairs into the restaurant and played opera music.
Ooh.
As well as classical music, which was probably more modern in the day than it was, played a lot of music like that, and they still do to this very day in this particular place.
Nice.
So in 1970, the Napoleon House was recognized for its history. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places and became a National Historic Landmark. So they can't change anything there.
Yeah.
In 2015, the Impasto family finally sold the Napoleon House, meaning that they kept it for 101 years.
Wow.
Yeah. They sold it to Ralph Brennan Restaurant Group. Brennan is famous for their brunches and breakfast.
Oh, yes. That's a different... Yeah, that's true. I didn't think about that it's the same people.
It's the same people. Yeah. So they made the Bananas Foster.
Yes.
So anyways, the new owners promised to keep the history alive and continue the tradition of wonderful food and service. Today, the Napoleon House is still a New Orleans favorite. It's a must-see for anyone who wants to experience the city's unique history and culture. It's a place where the past and the present meet together, all in one place. I will say, I would like to add, it is on every single ghost tour. And if you go there at night, you will hear them giving the tour of that particular place.
Yes.
Now, it's really weird when they do the tours. The tour guide will stand in the street and talk. And the people on the tour are not allowed in the street because I guess the city values their tourist more than they value the tour guides.
Yes.
So that is the history that I have. Do you have anything to add to this particular?
The only thing I'll just add is not really necessarily history, but just that it's kind of an interesting mix, the menu of Italian almost and New Orleans inspired food.
Oh yeah.
Their specialty is the muffaletto.
Yeah, muffalato.
Muffalato, which is like an Italian sandwich where it has like the Italian meats and stuff like that.
That's like more Spanish influence then.
I see.
So, but
I mean, they call it an Italian muffalato.
Yeah. Well, they might put some prosciutto on it or something like that.
They have Genoa, salami, ham, that kind of stuff. I mean, the rest of the menu isn't necessarily that, I mean, they have the gumbo and red beans and rice and that kind of stuff. And then their other thing they're known for is their drinks. They're special. I swear, every restaurant in New Orleans has like their drink.
Yeah.
And the one there is the Pim's cocktail or drink.
Okay.
So, we're not going to dive into that too much, but just that's the house cocktail there.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of, again, it's well rated restaurant.
Yeah.
The only thing that's hard, and this is what unfortunately made it a little difficult for us, is that they don't take reservations.
No.
So if it's busy, you either are just going to have to wait a while to get a table, or, you may have to go at an off time, something like that.
Yeah, definitely. I would say great to check out the place even if you can't get a reservation. Just, go walk by it. The French Quarter is very accessible. We found it to be okay, even though it's like at night and stuff like that. We found most of the French Quarter to be okay, although I would say to not walk by yourself.
Sure.
Make sure you have somebody with you. I would also say get off of Bourbon Street sometimes, because Bourbon Street is just a party. That's all it is. And you can't party forever, I mean, unless you're 20.
It's, not that the rest of the French Quarter isn't also touristy, but Bourbon is super touristy.
Exactly. Yeah. They sell things there that they don't sell anyplace else. Yeah. So.
And it's funny looking at the inside of the Napoleon House, it actually in a weird way reminds me of in Chicago of Geno's East.
Oh yeah.
Where you can write on the walls.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So a lot of it's just very old and worn, but there are like people write on the wall. It's very rustic. It's very old. This is not like, there are plenty of very fancy restaurants, and not to say that the food isn't a little more upscale.
I mean, we might have partaken in a couple of fancy restaurants.
We may have gone to a few, but this one is not necessarily that.
No, this is a good place to hang out.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm going to end the Pat Facts there. We're going to take a small break again, and when we return, Rebecca is going to tell us that there's ghosts.
Yes.
All right. Rebecca. So I guess you might have heard something about a ghost being there once or twice, right?
There are a lot of ghost stories.
What? No.
Yes, absolutely.
Napoleon was never even there.
No. So we're not saying that Napoleon is haunting this place. No,
I'm sure there's some stories that say that he did.
No, actually there are some, but that is not true.
Okay.
Most do not. I just wanted to start by making a comment or bring up something.
An astute comment?
The executive chef, Chris Montero, who's been there almost, I think, since it was bought by the Brennans, he says that the historic restaurant and bar has ghost stories.
Oh, okay.
He says he has 3 different ghosts that he talks about. We're going to talk about a couple more, or potentially a couple more, but that he said he actually learned the stories from the members of the Impastato, there it is, family that you talked about, who ran it from 1914 to 2015.
Yeah.
So, and then prior to that, the building was the residence of Nicholas. I'm going to say Gerard. I don't. He probably said Gerard. It's
Whatever.
Again, is it American or French?
Yeah.
And he was the mayor. And some people will say that it's possible he is one of the ghosts, but when you really read the stories, there's no story of a ghost that would look like this guy.
Yeah.
So
also, there was stuff in between that too.
Right.
That's
so
fine.
we're not. So yeah.
All right.
So just wanted to acknowledge that part. Okay, let's start with the first one, which is Civil War soldiers.
Okay.
Civil War soldiers that never left. So historical records suggest that the Napoleon House served as a Civil War hospital.
Okay.
And many claim to see the apparition of a Confederate soldier pacing the second floor balcony in the early hours of the morning.
Okay, so I struggle with this story a little bit because New Orleans is very south, right?
Yes.
It is very far south. And the war wasn't fought in the very far south. It was fought in the middle grounds, right? So to get people there would be very, very difficult. So, I mean, I'm sure that there was some, But the extent of how many soldiers were here probably wasn't as great as what, makes it sound like when we say that it was a Civil War hospital. It was probably a hospital for healthier people, I would imagine. That could make it.
They may not have been hurt in battle.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, because the North did take New Orleans.
They did. That was one of the first things that Abraham Lincoln wanted to do.
Yeah.
Because of it being a port.
Right.
So also too, let me do say this because I didn't say this in the history. Chicago would not be the city it is without New Orleans. New Orleans would not be the city it is without Chicago, because in Chicago they made the I&M Canal, which essentially was what Lewis and Clark were looking for, which is the passageway from the Mississippi all the way up into the Great Lakes and beyond. So it actually it was like a passageway, like a road halfway through the country, so you didn't have to go all the way to like the West Coast in order to, ship things. So
right. Well, and I think Chicago, Memphis, and New Orleans are all connected just because people got on ships and were taking goods wherever, and then they maybe would, they might start in New Orleans, but then a lot of people from New Orleans moved to Chicago.
Yeah. So much so
brought
that
their music.
That Beale Street is like a tiny version of Bourbon Street.
And that's in Memphis.
Yeah, just not as loud.
Yeah. No. But a lot of music influences and anyways, they're definitely are very connected.
Yeah. So I can't talk about Montero's talk about the three ghosts because there's nothing said except that he just brought it up. Well,
there is more. I just didn't.
At this point, I can't debate that.
I'm not.
I had nothing to go on.
Debate, yeah.
But anyways, the Civil War hospital, as I said, I don't know if it was as prominent as what we make it sound like when we say those terms. I would say that a lot of these kind of things happen because of word of mouth. People, will be like, "Oh my God, did you hear so and so saw something there?" And then it spreads, and then you get stuff like the ghost tours there, where people see them talking about it outside, and then they go in for a drink. So that's when they are like, "Oh my God, did you hear that? Did you hear that?" Because any noise that they have is instantly attributed to, there's got to be ghosts in here. And this place is pretty old, Civil War. That's what I'm going to say for this one. It is probably word of mouth. It is also probably, us humans, we have this thing where we want to link A with B and C. So we draw these conclusions in our minds that aren't necessarily true. So it's just a bunch of storytelling to me. So I'm going to give this one a 0.
Okay. I'm going to give this one, I'm going to give it a 6.
Okay.
We don't have a ton of specifics. This is like, it makes sense to me that, anything with the Civil War, a lot of energy with it, that, something could be lingering from that, but
also that Abraham Lincoln targeted it right away, like almost instantly when the Civil War started.
Right. So this could be a Union soldier or a Confederate soldier.
Well, no, it was a Confederate Civil War hospital. So also it could be a Union hospital for the Confederates.
Yeah.
But still, again, it is too far south. There's probably not many people that had to go there. I'm just assuming that. So I don't have anything to back that up, but I didn't look at your history before, or your ghost stories before this episode, nor should I typically.
Yes. All right, let's move on to our next one. So this next one, I feel like is kind of interesting to me.
Okay.
During the late 19th century, so we're saying 1800s, right? The house reportedly fell under the control of the New Orleans mafia. Talk about Chicago and New Orleans being connected.
Yeah.
So locals claim...
They were exactly the same, except they ate a lot of gumbo.
There you go.
Yeah.
Instead of the pasta.
Yeah.
Locals claim that anyone taken to the upstairs floors might never be seen again. And I could see that, right? I mean, that's not necessarily a ghost thing. That's like at the time, it's like you don't want to go upstairs because if you're going upstairs, you never know what's going to happen to you. But the paranormal investigators have reported encountering the ghost of a woman in the second-story courtyard. And they're just guessing that could be a victim of organized crime, since there was a lot of activity that took place there related to that. But again, we don't necessarily really know these ghosts, right? We just know that there's these sightings. So they're just making educated guesses.
So there's a second story courtyard. Is that like part of the balcony then or something?
It's weird. They mentioned them separately. So I feel like the balcony is the front facing, right? Like out to the street, and then the courtyard is inside.
But still, it doesn't make any sense that it's a second. Okay, anyways, I'm not going to fight about small details about that. I would say, first of all, that, sure, okay, maybe some mafia were there during a certain time. Also, too, we are talking about during the spiritual movement. Mm-hmm. So anytime that there's the spiritual movement, people are going to start to see things and stuff. It's funny because the amount of reports of these kind of things increased exponentially, when after the spiritual movement. So once people are like talking about ghosts, oh yeah, well, we all have a ghost story then. So,
but people feel more able to tell their stories.
Yeah. So do we have any idea who these paranormal investigators were?
No, just the chef did mention them as well. So, it's not just a random reporting. I mean, they did bring them in.
I have met some really good paranormal investigators that I think are very intelligent people. I've also met some that I would probably say they're not as much paranormal investigators as paranormal enthusiasts that just have an EVP or something, and they just bring it around. So I don't know what level of paranormal investigation was done at this particular location. Encountered too, I don't know how they encountered this. Did they see the woman? Did they pick up EVPs? Exactly what is the encounter with this particular thing? Mm-hmm. So this just doesn't feel like there's any actual like physical evidence with this particular one that I can wrap my head around. So I'm gonna have to give it a 1, unfortunately, because of that. I want to leave it open that maybe this was like a smart group. Maybe it wasn't Zach Baggins and crew and stuff. And maybe it was someone that, knows their stuff and did actual paranormal investigation, but I would question their means and I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go 1.
Okay. I'm going to say...
I saw you typing, so you...
I was just looking up to see if I could find out who did the investigation, but...
Who done it?
Yeah, but it's not coming up. So.
Yeah, I don't like when there's no names attributed to these evidence too. It's like, yeah, the chef talked about it, but the chef could have stake in the game. It's like, I don't know. I'm not saying that happens all the time, but I'm saying that there is a possibility of these things. So therefore, it takes it chips off a little bit of the integrity of the story then.
So I'm gonna give this one another 6 because again, especially the upper floors, we're gonna get to some more specific stories in a little bit. Good. And the upper floors is actually where those things happen.
Okay. I like it when we do more specific things. Yeah. Like if we did find the Holy Ghost, I would love to talk about that.
I see. All right, I've got one more. Well, I guess I've got a couple more here. So
yeah.
Okay. There's a haunted sailor.
Oh, okay.
That supposedly shows up. So they do report interesting things happening at the bar, and I don't know why they attributed this to a sailor, but they do.
Where do you have this in your thing?
This
Are you
is
just
number
saying
3.
This? Oh,
no.
Okay, number 3. Okay.
Yep, we're in evidence number 3.
Yeah. Okay.
So basically, after cleaning and closing for the night, glasses will mysteriously reappear on the counter. And again, I don't know why this is associated necessarily with the sailor, but it is, I guess, because they drank a lot at the bar.
What do you do with a drunken sailor?
What do you do, right? But yeah, it's kind of weird. So it's like so you, in your mind, you're like, I have cleaned everything's good, and then you turn around and there's a glass.
Yeah.
There's what? How did that glass get there?
Okay.
So that's what the bartenders and people that work there report.
Okay.
And again, they will call it the sailor.
Okay. I'm going to say that there's no reason to associate it with the sailor, but I mean, hey, whatever. I mean, I'm sure that there was plenty of sailors that frequented these kind of places.
Yes.
Although there were probably divier bars for them to go to and stuff. But anyways, I struggle with this because I feel like maybe they were just overworked. I mean, this place is busy, busy, busy. It is like nonstop busy. Like when we were there, at least that's all I can attest to is what we saw. And there was like a line out the door too. So I am just going to attribute this to that the person was really busy and just didn't realize it. And then it's like, oh, there's the sailor again, I mean, it's just something that you say. So again, no names attributed with the story, no information about the sailor, no things saying that they saw the glass moving there. They just all of a sudden saw it reappear. The only thing that I could think of is that they're overworked and underpaid probably too, right? As the world is at this moment. So 0 for this one.
I'm going to give that one a 6.
Okay.
Again, this is not uncommon for hauntings at bars.
Yes.
We often kind of hear either glasses
these
getting
ghosts
knocked
love these
over,
glasses,
or
man.
glasses it's something they can touch.
Yeah.
I don't know, something they can move. All right, let's talk about our last of the kind of general stories that people give. And this is another second story balcony story.
By the way, general stories. I had to salute to that one. So if you watched How I Met Your Mother, that's,
There you go. And so again, some of this, I wonder if it's the same spirit and just people are calling it different things.
Yeah.
So this is actually one of the most frequently spotted spirits. Say that 3 times fast. And that's a little old lady who appears on the second floor balcony. Many believe she's a member of the Impastato family.
Now that sounds like a mafia name too, by the way.
I mean,
I'm sure they were really great people.
I'm sure they were. Who lived in the house during the early 1900s. Staff and visitors often see her sweeping in the early morning hours, stuck in a never-ending loop.
Oh, wow.
One of your favorites.
Yeah, so, I mean, how sweet, though, that she's sweeping and stuff. I wonder if it actually
I don't know if that's
gets
what
swept.
I want my... No, probably not. And I don't know if
okay.
that's what I want my afterlife to be, is that I'm endlessly sleeping.
That's pretty sad. You know, you're constantly at work.
Yeah.
It's like Severance, it's like those innies in Severance. If you haven't watched that, these people, that's all that they do all day is work. And then when they take a second to reflect upon something, that there's always some guy going, hey, what are you doing?
Right. Oh, it's a nightmare.
Yeah, exactly. Again, not many details with these stories, it's like, I don't know who sees them. I don't know what member of the family this is. I like an actual story that's like, hey, Joe Schmo, used to do this all the time. Those are the ones that I really like, even though I don't believe them, but I really like the ones that are like, wow, that's like a huge coincidence there. So I like those kind of mind games to go on, with the evidence. So this one feels like to me it could be anybody reporting this about anything that they see and has no relevance to me at all. So I'm going to give it a 0.
Again, I'm keeping going with my 6s.
Yeah.
Because
wait, you did a 6, a 6, a 6. Wow.
And now this is another 6.
Yeah. So you're 4 6s. Wow.
Yeah.
Again, I think Beetlejuice is coming down
now. Again, just an interesting story. I mean, I do think there must be some spirit on the second floor. Like they're just, again, is it someone sweeping? Is it a victim of the mafia? I'm not really sure, but there seems to be a lot of stories about
this. Could all be the same story because it doesn't give any names.
It could be. That's what I'm saying.
So it could just be one person talking about this woman, and we don't know.
Well, no, I think there's definitely multiple reports, but again, they attribute it to, well, there's, I think so.
Okay, I think not. I think it's one person telling this story. So.
All right, well, let's get to the last one.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to talk about all of this. It's a little bit of a story. It's all about lights flickering.
Okay.
That's the paranormal. So we're not talking about seeing a ghost.
Okay, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So when the Impastates owned the building, they would rent out the second and third floors.
As one would do.
Yes. And sometimes they would live in the apartments themselves. And so in this case, they rented it to a family, and the family didn't always stay there. But the two daughters, one especially would live. She lived there when she went to college. She went to Tulane.
Okay.
So Catherine Towerman was the youngest of the Towerman siblings, was a student at Tulane University and occasionally used the apartment for school. And she thought the apartment was haunted the first time she walked into it. She was like,
do we have any time period for this? Because she could still be alive.
Oh, you know what? Yeah. I do. I would have to look it up.
That's fine. Let's just keep going. Yeah.
If I get a chance, I will look it up. But
Catherine, if you're still alive or if one of your family members wants to comment on this, please send an email to info@ghostlypodcast.com. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this.
There you go. I'm going to guess like 60s or 70s, but I could be wrong.
Could still be alive, though.
Yeah,
too. Yeah.
Definitely. Okay, so, sorry, going back. So she thought the apartment was haunted at first. So she said you get a creepy vibe from it. When you're there by yourself, you feel like someone else is with you, but no one's there.
Okay.
So Catherine said she had an eerie experience when she and several friends stayed in the apartment during Mardi Gras. When one of Catherine's friends mentioned that she thought the place was haunted by a ghost, Catherine said the lights in the kitchen started blinking wildly. Astonished, they decided to ask the spirit questions. We asked if there was a presence here to blink the light 3 times, Catherine said. It blinked 1, 2, 3. After asking several more questions and watching the kitchen light flicker correspondingly, Catherine said she and her friends were convinced the flickering was no coincidence due to faulty wiring. Catherine's sister, Mary Towerman, had a similar experience when she and a friend visited the apartment after a wedding. When Mary mentioned the strange experience her sister had, her friend declared that she did not believe in ghosts. Suddenly, the kitchen light flickered. Mary said she asked the ghost to make the light blink again, and it did. It was very deliberate, and it did not flicker again after that, Mary said.
Okay. Well, I wish I could go there and do this, but I am very thankful that there is names associated with this particular story.
Yes.
Lights flickering, though, is a difficult one. And although she claims that it's no fault of electrical wiring, is she an electrician? Does she know this for a fact? This is an old building. Electricity was installed after this building was created, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it had to be because electricity wasn't around then.
I mean, it was close, but it probably wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, especially in the French Quarter and stuff like that. I mean, yeah. So anyways, 1893, we had it at the World's Fair, and that was something like unheard of. So, you know, I don't know what this building was built way before that. So obviously electricity was installed after the fact. So I don't know how good the electricity is there. I don't know how good it was there. I don't know what time period this is. So it's hard for me to dictate that.
I'm just looking, actually, the interview, it looks like was done in 2010.
Oh, okay.
So actually, I think pretty recent.
Okay. Yeah. So, you know, I don't know the history of when they've updated their electricity. I'm sure that they all have in the French Quarter and stuff like that because, I mean, I saw a lot of electricity there. I don't know. This one, to me, it seems like, blink 3 times. That could be a parlor trick. It could be somebody playing games. It could be a lot of different things.
Like a ghost playing games?
No, like an actual physical person that's still alive and probably still alive today. We don't know. And oftentimes these stories, you know, if they become like a national story where people talk about it, you hear later on in life that they're like, it wasn't real. You know, so I'm going to give this one a 1 as well. Because I don't know so many of the details that I would need to know. And I've never been in the upstairs area. I have not scoped it out enough to know anything about it. I don't know the history of the electricity in the building. And I'm not just saying this to poo-poo everything, you know. I am saying this because I really would like to know. Yeah, like a poo-poo platter or something. I would really like to know more about this. That's why I say it, but I did give it a 1. So I did give it something for its trouble, you know, for the reports of it because it has a name associated with it. And that just, to me, this evidence in this episode has been lacking names and stuff. So finally to get one that has a name, I'm going to give it a little bit higher. I'm going to give it a 1.
Okay.
And also too, man, if there's any ghosts in the world, I would love it to be in New Orleans because that seems like such a fitting place, right? With all the vampire places and all the ghost places. We saw a ghost bar there.
Oh yes.
We didn't go in because it wasn't actually like that there are ghosts there. It's
they just had a theme. So it was cute though. And I just want to, so for me, I'm going to give this one an 8.
Okay.
Because it is more, right?
Yeah.
And it does have specifics to it. And it's what helps push me to the believer part of the other stories of it being haunted.
But maybe Catherine is the one that's reporting the other stuff as well. The other second story stuff.
I don't think so, because you would think that would be mentioned. I mean, that would be pretty... So I was just going to mention...
Well, we don't know, like she did this in that interview, but what about if she told Montiero or whatever his name was, the executive chef, maybe if she talked to him, that is separate from that interview. And he might not want to disclose her name because she didn't give permission at that point.
Well, I think there's this interview took place because there's been the reportings of hauntings. Like there are earlier articles I found from like 2007 and before that are talking about those other stories. This one, and just to give a shout out, there will definitely be a link in our show notes. It's Sarah Chambliss is her name that wrote this blog. And she is, again, I don't know if she herself interviewed these people. It sounds like it, or maybe she was pulling it from somewhere else. But this is the place that had the most detail. There's a few other places that report. I think they're pulling from this blog,
and we'll link that in the show notes because I would love to read that. I love that anybody would do something like that for their blog and stuff. That's awesome. But again, I'm sorry, but I'm a skeptic. That's what I do.
Yeah,
so
it's all good.
Please don't hate on me. It's not the Holy Ghost.
Go vote.
So.
You get to have your voice too, right?
Absolutely.
We get our voices, and so do the listeners.
And I pretend to be upset, but I'm not upset when somebody votes that it's haunted because I actually love that kind of stuff.
I'm absolutely very upset when someone. No,
you do get a little bit,
No,
miffed.
I am okay.
Yeah. Okay. So, what would your overall rating then be of all of this? Shenanigans.
I'm gonna go 7 then. I had a lot of 6s. I had an 8, so I'm gonna go 7.
So I'm gonna round up on this one to give it extra credit.
Okay.
For that just my desire, because I mean desire goes a long way in these particular things. Even if you are a believer in ghost stories, you want the ones that you really feel to be credited more, right?
Sure.
So I'm gonna give it a 1.
Okay.
Even though I only gave 2 1s and 3 0s. I'm going to give it a 1.
All right.
Round up.
Okay.
And where were you at?
I was at a 7.
7. So just, right in the middle there.
Yeah.
So that brings us to the closing arguments. This is our last chance to convince you to vote our way. We are each given 1 minute of uninterrupted time. We will time each other on the Ghostly Studio timer to keep everyone honest.
Yeah, if you haven't heard it yet, you're about to.
Yeah, and it's going to be spectacular. I already have it set up for us. So are you ready, Rebecca?
Yeah, let's do it.
And there's going to be a countdown.
Right.
2, 1, go, and then you go. Okay,
all right,
you ready?
Right. Yep. Very official with the dinging. All right. So I do think Napoleon House is haunted. One, just because it's in New Orleans and there is so much spiritual energy there. We've already done some episodes. We'll be doing plenty more. And this building has been around for so long and has been unchanged and has seen the Civil War and it's seen a lot of change. It's been a house. It's been a saloon. It's been a restaurant. Been so many different things and, had a lot of people in its life. So it doesn't surprise me that people see figures. It may not be that each one is exactly the thing people are guessing, but I do think they're seeing a woman. And I do think that these people have spoken with the ghosts through the lights and through the appearing glassware.
All right, you're done. You had
done.
A couple seconds left there.
I
So I'm going to
did.
take that off. You had 8 seconds left. Even though it says 6, I waited 2 seconds in case you were going to keep going.
Thank you.
All right. So I am going to put 1 minute back on the clock here.
All right. He's going to set it up for himself. I don't know if I trust him, but
I'm going to let this play out, actually.
Oh, okay. All right.
Easier,
okay. That sounds good.
All right. So that's what it would sound like had she had gone over.
Okay. Here we go.
All right. So I am ready and I am going to go. Man, I'm kind of bummed with this episode because unfortunately we have a place that, could be considered really, really haunted. In fact, a lot of people in New Orleans told us that every building is haunted there. And so we could do a, ghostly just on New Orleans for the rest of our lives. It would last forever. Unfortunately, there's only one credited name here, besides Montiero or whatever his name is, the executive chef, which didn't actually tell a ghost story. He spoke of a story that he heard of 3 particular ghosts. Not that he's seen them. He said that he's heard them. So I would say that this would definitely discredit this place as being haunted. But I'm open to feedback. So let us know. And I am done too.
Wow,
Rebecca.
You took more time than I did.
Yeah, because I wanted to this time. I usually don't. So don't let your friends miss out on the chills. You've been doing a disservice to some of your friends by not telling them about Ghostly. Just think, they could be engaged in this conversation.
You guys could be having conversations and debates amongst yourselves.
Yeah, and we would love to hear about these conversations that you have with your friends about these particular places too. Make sure you share Ghostly with them, though. Help us grow this community of paranormal enthusiasts because we do better the bigger we are.
Yes.
Your support means the world to us. Shout out to our VIP producers who make this all possible. We have Travis,
Andrew,
Alicia,
Becky,
Cindy,
Kevin,
Jessica,
Alice,
Aaron,
and Hope.
Is it real? You be the judge. Share your verdict at ghostlypodcast.com poll section and let the debates continue. Subscribe to Ghostly now and get ready for more spine-tingling encounters with the unknown. What do we got coming up, Rebecca?
I am very excited for our next episode. So our next episode of Ghostly will be about the Whaley House in San Diego. And it comes out on March 12th. This is a house that is often known as the most haunted house in America.
In America?
Yes.
Wow. In like North America or like all of the Americas?
Good question.
So we need to find out that.
Probably the United States of America is probably what they're referring to, but we'll find out.
Yeah, we need to stop that, though. I mean, America's, we got several places in America. So let's refer to it as the United States then.
There it is, the U.S.
We can narrow it down, be more specific. I don't know. Until next time, stay ghostly.
Bye.